today. We're members of the African American Christian community, the Interdenominational Ministerial Alliance. We're pleased to be joined by also the National Action Network, Walt Dixie, President of the National Action Network, Mr. Preston Fagan, who is the President of the Syracuse Chapter, and Onondaga County Chapter of the NAACP. And we're here today to make a statement. In the wake of the recent events in Ferguson, Missouri, New York City, other locales around the country, Syracuse pastors and ministers within the African American Christian community are here today to announce our partnership with the police department in several areas. First, we'll be taking a proactive approach to dialogue on important matters regarding law enforcement and the community. This will begin in November and continuing monthly and rotating to different churches across the Syracuse community. We want to thank the pastors that are present here and those who aren't here but who are committed to opening their doors. Secondly, we ourselves as members of the clergy will be continuing our meetings with Chief Fowler in 3 focused areas. We'll be reviewing enforcement strategies, the review of policies, as well as the law in you. We're proud to say that we've had unprecedented accessibility with both Chief Fowler and Mayor Minor in discussing both problems and solutions to various matters. We continue to maintain positive and constant communication with them. Now, we do acknowledge that problems do exist, and we're concerned, but we also feel that we're doing our part, as this is an entree towards bringing solutions within our own community. We as pastors, clergy, and spiritual leaders have been major stakeholders with a vested interest in our community. We continue to work with our police, the mayor, and other groups to be a positive contributor in resolving these issues of concern within our community. We support the police in their mission of public safety. But with public safety, we as spiritual leaders are also demanding quality, respect, decency, and professionalism from those who are public servants, just as we are. With both, we look forward to maintaining and continuing a positive dialogue as we continually and collectively seek to better our city. We thank you for the attention given towards ourselves and the betterment of our community today. And at this time, I'll ask Pastor Eure if he'll come forward, and he has the dates and the places of the various churches where the meetings will be being held and where the doors will be open. Pastor Erik.
Thank you, Pastor Jaime. To show how concerted our effort is to make this movement citywide, several churches have opened up their doors so we can have this ongoing dialogue. On November 13th, we'll be meeting at the Greater Evangelical Church of God in Christ. On December 11th, we'll be meeting at the Bell Grove Missionary Baptist Church. On January 7th, we'll be meeting at the Bethany Baptist Church. And in February, we'll be meeting at the Living Water Church of God in Christ. We're going to follow with more details about the exact times to better suit the needs of the community. We want to let you know that these things have already been outlined. We have a plan in place to keep this community dialogue ongoing. Thank you.
We'll ask the Mayor Minor.
Thank you, Pastor Jaime. I just want to thank all of the pastors who are here and the community leaders who could not be here today for taking the proactive step of really engaging in dialogue. We know from so many of our experiences here and the experiences that we've seen across the country that dialogue between groups and responsibility on each of the people in that dialogue can go a long way towards solving problems. And that has always been a primary concern of ours as an administration, and I know of Chief Fowler's. We believe that the people that we police and the community that we have are our strongest asset, and this will continue our effort to make sure that we have the strongest relationship possible with them and making sure that we continue this dialogue. So thank you all very much for being here today and agreeing to participate and indeed help lead this very important discussion. But with that, let me just turn it over to Chief Fowler for a couple of words as well.
This is a great step in the right direction. This is a response to the community. It has always been the goal of the Syracuse Police Department to provide great quality professional service to our community. And what better way to know how we're doing and the adjustments that we need to make than communicating with the community directly. And that's what we're going to do here by forming this partnership, this relationship with the members of our community. We're going to continue to have an dialogue is always extremely important. We know that the word Ferguson or the location Ferguson has come up a number of times, and one incident ignited a series of incidents in Ferguson. And absent from that entire equation was the dialogue. It's important to form and build relationships out before and outside a moment of crisis. And that's what we're doing here. If you have those relationships in place, when you have an incident, an unfortunate incident, then you have the ability to sit down and talk about it because you've already formed relationships beforehand, and so therefore you can tap into those relationships and to solve the problem, and rather than to have it blossom into something that becomes national news.
What do you guys see as the main issues right now that you would like to discuss?
Well, as a group, we've discussed the fact that there's 3 areas that we really want to talk about. Number 1 is we want to be able to discuss the issue of enforcement strategies. 2, a review of the policies. And 3, a better understanding of the law and us and the community as an individual. And those are going to be the 3 focus areas that we're going to be discussing in depthly as clergy. And then when we go out to the community, hearing what the community has to say and having a better understanding as to what the pulse of the community is and what some of their concerns actually are.
How important is it for you guys as ministers, as pastors, to be involved in this process, kind of at the heart of your community?
Well, for pastors, we're stakeholders in the community. We're considered to be spiritual leaders, and we represent our individual congregations, but collectively we represent community. And so when you talk about the community, the church is one of the largest advocates and activists in social justice, in being a voice for the community. And so it's important to have pastors at the table. And all of these men and women who are graciously behind us and those who are actually here represent that, and they have a vested interest, and we want to see the betterment of our community. So we know that we have to play an important part in that dialogue, and we're making the commitment to do so.
And you guys had stressed communication, and the last point that you guys were focusing on was understanding of the law. Is there confusion at this point for people in your congregations of what is the law and what should happen or should not happen, etc.?
Well, anytime you see incidents, I think you see incidents, and whether you see them on Facebook, YouTube, however you see them, you always ask the question, well, what's supposed to happen? What's right? What's wrong? This gives us an opportunity to have a discussion beforehand so someone can be educated. So if there is something that occurs, you know what the policies and the procedures are. And if the policies and procedures aren't followed, what we have an opportunity to do is talk to us, and we can talk to law enforcement and talk to the chief and his people to be able to find out exactly what happens. Because what we found out is that having a dialogue makes a difference. And we want to emphasize that for all of us here, this isn't the first time that we're doing this. We meet ongoing. And so to have constant communication and constant dialogue is the difference maker.
To generalize perhaps, but the types of people that are going to come to these community meetings are probably not the types of people who are going to be having run-ins with police officers on the street. So how do you reach, the community at large?
Well, the thing that you said, the types of people who come to the meetings, well, their families do. And they themselves may not be the person that has a run-in with the law, but their family might have a run-in with the law. So we're looking to reach as many people as possible, recognizing that 1 can put 1,000 and 2 can put a whole lot to flight. So we recognize that just by having the opportunity to have an open forum, to talk to community, whoever shows up, they'll be able to pass the message on. Word of mouth really makes a difference.
You mentioned those 3 main points. Are those the 3 main points that are going to be discussed at the church meetings?
These are 3 main points that are going to be discussed amongst the clergy, with the police department, and with Chief Fowler and his group. At the community meetings, what we're looking to discuss is basically have dialogue and to have an open conversation with community about those things. But when it comes to the clergy being able to meet with Chief Fowler, the 3 focused areas that we're going to concentrate on are enforcement strategies, review of policies, as well as the law.
And either for Chief or the Mayor, what do you, obviously we talked about this not escalating to something that's seen on national news, but what do you see this playing as a role in our day-to-day operations?
Well, look, you've heard me say, if you've heard me say it once, you've heard me say it 1,000 times. The people in our city are our strongest asset in having a safe city. And in order to continue to have that be an asset for our community, you need to build relationships. And in a city that is as diverse as ours is, building relationships means that you have to start with communication. You have to start talking to people back and forth so that you understand your different responsibilities and your expectations. So while I think you heard Pastor Jaime say in his opening remarks that we have enjoyed unprecedented access between the ministers, my office and the chief's office, and we have meetings regularly and unscheduled and talk to each other a lot. The goal is really to build those relationships throughout our neighborhood. So it's not just Pastor Jaime calling Chief Fowler or Pastor Carter calling the mayor. It's people saying, I know who the police officers are, and I can call them, or when I see them, I can talk to them, and I know the right questions to ask, or I can tell them what I saw that I didn't think was appropriate. And right now, I think you see that there are people who are fearful of perhaps entering into that engagement because they don't know the right questions to ask, and they don't know what the right process is. And so what we're attempting to do this, and what I know we will accomplish, because we've accomplished a lot with this group of people behind us, is to give them that information and to start that discussion, start that dialogue, which will build relationships throughout our community.
And Chief, can you talk a little bit about, I know certain neighborhoods have more community policing, police walking the streets. How important is that for police to be building that relationship while they're doing their job on the streets?
It's extremely important. Just like the mayor said, from the city's perspective, from a law enforcement perspective, we're in the information gathering business, and our greatest source of information is that of a human form. So the people within our community are our eyes and ears. When crimes are committed, when things happen in the community, it doesn't happen in the presence of law enforcement. It happens in the presence of our citizens. So it's extremely important that we establish a relationship, a clear dialogue with them, a level of comfort with them, so that when something happens, they're quick and comfortable in communicating that to us.
Chief, what do you think the current relationship is like between Syracuse Police Force and urban communities that you're speaking of? What would you most like to see improve besides obviously starting more of a conversation?
You said, what would I like to see improve?
Yeah.
Just the overall dialogue. It's our goal, as I said in the beginning, is to provide quality service to our community. And so it's not up to us to define what quality service looks like or what quality service sounds like. It's for the community to communicate that with us. And so with these open dialogues, they'll have an opportunity to communicate just that to us.
Now, you mentioned the events in Ferguson as being a contributing factor to kind of prevent that, for the partnership, to start this partnership. Were there any other contributing factors or any other reasons why this partnership's coming now?
I don't know if we necessarily said that Ferguson was a contributing factor, because Ferguson is a long ways away from here. We have our own issues here, whether it's one's personal perception or whether it's reality. We have our own issues that we are willing to work on here. And that's what prompted us to have this meeting here today, because we want to do better. We want to be the best there is at this.
Yeah, can you touch on some of those issues in particular?
Excuse me?
Can you touch on some of those issues
No,
in particular?
because that's not the purpose of this meeting here. We have a specific goal here, and that's not one of them.
Pastor, if I can just clarify quickly, are there going to be two different sets of meetings here? You all meeting with the police and then the community meeting, or will members of the police be at this series of community meetings?
No, at the community meetings, there will be police presence and police officials there to have that conversation and that dialogue. We as pastors will maintain our constant communication with the chief and his staff.
Are there any things in particular that you hear from community members, any specific areas that people come to you with issues, things that you are finding yourself often relaying to Chief Fowler or someone else from the police department?
I think everybody has the common issue of crime and violence. Those are things that really want to be that are addressed. Also, the issue of safety. When you look around, people want to be safe. People want to understand what's going on. And so when we talk to our community members, when we talk to members of our congregations, the things that they want addressed are those factors right there. And I think that's all across the city.